Welcome to the channel, where the world unfolds one story at a time. From the hidden forces shaping global politics to the breakthroughs transforming science, technology, and space, we break down complex ideas into stories that are clear, engaging, and thought-provoking. Here, history connects with today's headlines, and the biggest events in our world become stories you can truly understand. So if you're curious about the world and the forces shaping our future, you're in the right place, and buckle up. June 27th, 1981. Inside a mosque in Tehran, a man sits calmly answering questions from a journalist. A tape recorder is placed in front of him. Seconds later, it explodes. Disappear from public life after something like that. But this man didn't. Instead, he went on to become one of the most powerful leaders in the modern Middle East. His name is Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran. And his story is far more complicated than most people realize. For more than 3 decades, Ali Khamenei has ruled Iran as its supreme leader, shaping its politics, its foreign policy, and its conflicts with the West. But Khamenei didn't start as a powerful ruler. He began as the son of a poor religious scholar, grew up under a monarchy, survived assassination, and rose to power during one of the most dramatic revolutions of the 20th century. To understand modern Iran, you have to understand the man behind it. Ali Khamenei was born in 1939 in the city of Mashhad in northeastern Iran. At the time, Iran wasn't the Islamic Republic we know today. It was a monarchy ruled by a king, the Shah. Khamenei grew up in a deeply religious household. His father was a respected Shia cleric who taught Islamic law, and religion shaped nearly every part of Ali's childhood. The family lived modestly. Khamenei later described growing up in a small home where meals were simple, often just bread, dates, and raisins. But while his family lacked wealth, they had something else: influence in religious circles. And in Iran, religion had always been deeply tied to politics. Even as a teenager, Khamenei began studying to become a cleric. He traveled to major centers of Islamic scholarship, including Qom and briefly Najaf in Iraq. And it was in Qom that he met someone who would change the course of his life: a fiery religious teacher named Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. In the 1960s, Iran was undergoing dramatic change. The Shah launched a modernization program known as the White Revolution. It introduced land reforms, expanded education, and pushed Iran toward a more Western-style society. To many religious leaders, this was dangerous. They believed Western influence threatened Iran's Islamic identity. Ayatollah Khomeini became one of the loudest critics of the Shah, and his student, Ali Khamenei, quickly became one of his loyal supporters. Khamenei began preaching against the government. He translated revolutionary Islamic texts. He traveled across Iran giving speeches condemning Western influence. The Shah's secret police, known as Savak, took notice. Khamenei was arrested multiple times. Sometimes he spent months in prison. Once he was held in solitary confinement with his family, unaware of where he was. But the pressure didn't silence him. If anything, it hardened his beliefs. By the late 1970s, Iran was on the brink of collapse. The Shah's regime faced massive protests. Economic problems, corruption, and repression had created widespread anger. Demonstrations spread across the country. Hundreds of people were killed in clashes with security forces. And in 1979, the unthinkable happened. The Shah fled Iran. Millions of people poured into the streets celebrating the fall of the monarchy. After years in exile, Ayatollah Khomeini returned to Tehran. The Islamic Revolution had succeeded. But the future of Iran was far from clear. The revolution included many groups: liberals, leftists, religious conservatives. Each had different visions for the country. But in the end, the clerics won. Iran became an Islamic Republic, and Khamenei was suddenly part of the new ruling elite. The new government faced immediate threats: supporters of the old monarchy, Marxist groups, radical militants. Iran was politically unstable. Then came the attack. June 1981. Khamenei was speaking at a mosque in Tehran. A man posing as a journalist placed a tape recorder in front of him. Moments later, it exploded. The bomb nearly killed him. The blast destroyed nerves in his right arm, leaving it mostly paralyzed. His vocal cords were damaged. Even today, his voice remains soft and strained because of that injury. The group responsible left a chilling message inside the device: a gift. But instead of ending his political career, the attack did the opposite. It elevated him. Just months after the assassination attempt, Iran faced another crisis. His president had been impeached. His replacement was assassinated in a bombing. The country suddenly needed a new leader. And despite still recovering from his injuries, Ali Khamenei ran for president. He won in a landslide. At just 42 years old, he became president of Iran. But his presidency came during one of the bloodiest conflicts in modern Middle Eastern history, the Iran-Iraq War. In 1980, Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein invaded Iran. What he expected to be a quick victory turned into an 8-year nightmare. The war killed more than 1 million people. Chemical weapons were used, cities were bombed, entire generations were scarred. Throughout the war, Khamenei remained a central political figure. But even then, the most powerful man in Iran wasn't the president. It was the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. And when Khamenei died in 1989, Iran faced a massive question. Who would replace him? There was a problem. No one had Khamenei's authority. Several candidates were considered. None seemed strong enough. Then something unexpected happened. The Assembly of Experts, Iran's powerful clerical council, chose Ali Khamenei. At the time, many believed he lacked the religious credentials for the role, but he was politically experienced, loyal to the system and acceptable to multiple factions. So in 1989, Ali Khamenei became Iran's second supreme leader. He was just 50 years old. Few people realized then that he would go on to rule for decades. Once in power, Khamenei moved carefully. One of his first priorities was strengthening the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC. Originally created to defend the revolution, the Guard gradually became one of the most powerful institutions in Iran: military force, intelligence network, economic empire, and above all, loyal to the supreme leader. Under Khamenei, Iran also built a network of allies across the Middle East. Groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, Houthi forces in Yemen. These alliances allowed Iran to influence regional conflicts without direct war, but they also made Iran a major rival to the United States and Israel, and they brought heavy consequences. Over the years, Iran faced intense international sanctions, especially over its nuclear program. The government insisted its nuclear efforts were for energy and science. Western countries feared it was developing nuclear weapons. The dispute led to decades of economic pressure. Inside Iran, frustration grew. Young people protested. Students marched in the streets. In 1999, then again in 2009, and again during later demonstrations. Each time, the government responded with arrests, censorship, and crackdowns. Critics argued that Khamenei's system had become increasingly authoritarian. Supporters argued it was necessary to protect the country from foreign threats. Either way, the supreme leader remained firmly in control. For years, Iran appeared to be expanding its influence. Its allies controlled territory across the Middle East. Its military capabilities were growing. Its partnerships with Russia and China were strengthening, but the region remained unstable. Wars erupted in Syria and Yemen. Tensions with Israel escalated. And in recent years, conflict involving Iran's allies has pulled the country closer to direct confrontation with its enemies. For the first time in decades, the system Khamenei built began facing its biggest test. Ali Khamenei is now one of the longest-serving leaders in the world. When he took power in 1989, the Cold War still existed. The Soviet Union hadn't collapsed. The Middle East looked completely different. Today, Iran remains a powerful, yet deeply controversial country. Supporters see Khamenei as the defender of Iranian independence. Critics see him as the architect of repression and isolation. But one thing is undeniable. From a wounded cleric who survived a bombing to the supreme leader of an entire nation, Ali Khamenei has shaped the course of modern Iran more than almost anyone else. And when his era finally ends, the question that will define the region is simple. What comes after him?